Hello everybody and welcome back to the Ultimate Fashion History with me, fashion historian Amanda Hallay. If your city is starting to resemble a ghost town, if your grocery stores look like this, if you think that Jason actually had quite a good look, if your dad and your stepdad leave the house looking like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in reverse, no they really do, if, apart from getting sick, your biggest fear is that you're going to run out of things to watch on Netflix, well, you're not going mad. You're just living through 2020 so far, which is why I've started what I hope will be a very limited series called Isolation Inspiration, to hopefully add a little cheer and maybe offer some ideas, because I truly believe in times like these, any diversion or quarantainment, if you will, is welcome. Humour so often is the first casualty of a crisis, but not, it seems, fashion. We cared about style in the Great Depression, and fashion fought on and was victorious during World War II. So why am I beginning to think that Lebowski looks overdressed? It's because, like so many of the rest of you, I'm stuck at home, self-isolating. Yet for a good part of the last century, there was fashion, high fashion in fact, that was absolutely only designed to be worn in the home. And I'm not talking nightwear, but clothing that was considered more or less exclusively for wearing in one's home. Not to parties, or work, or shopping, or lunch, or nightclubs, or to the gym, or to school. Clothing that was just designed to be worn in the home with family or intimate guests. Not that we're allowed to have any guests over anymore, are we? So I thought it would be inspiring for me in terms of my own isolation wardrobe, and maybe fun for you guys, if we took a look at what I'm calling at-home fashion from the past 100 years. And what I've done is to focus on just one key trend from each decade. And there's even some menswear in there. I haven't forgotten my boys out there. Just to remind you before we start, I don't do comments here, but head over and join the Ultimate Fashion History Facebook group. It's great company in these isolating times, and if you'd like to contact me directly, I'll leave my deets in the description. Well, I promised you 100 years, it's 2020 now, so come join me at home in the 1920s. And what a stylish living room we have here. We're at home, no plans to go out, but there's 2 glasses of bootleg champagne on that table. So what are we going to wear? May I offer up for your consideration? The pajama suit. It was an absolute craze of the jazz age, speaking as it did to that daring, boyish, and generally more relaxed approach to female fashion. And who's this in this beautifully embroidered silk pajama suit? Hi, Joan. And here's the dazzling Louise Brooks. As you can see, these are not actually pajamas, although in Joan's case, they could probably have functioned as such. And really nobody went out in pajama suits unless they were intent on making a Model T Ford drive off the road. These were for relaxing in jazz age elegance at home, either alone or when entertaining a beau or close friends. Now, don't get me wrong, most women of the 20s just wore their everyday clothes until it was time to change into evening wear or nightwear. But at the hippest end of the spectrum, the pajama suit was the perfect ensemble for staying at home, and I think it would be a great thing to wear in isolation today. Look at this, it's absolutely wonderful. And you could zhuzh it up with a silk flower and a string of glass and tasseled beads, and look at you, you're ready to Charleston all night, at home and possibly alone. Uh-oh, I think I hear Wall Street crashing, so come join me in the living room of the glamour-hungry 1930s. And glamour, however it came, was the chosen escape from the stress of the Great Depression. And although I've no doubt that every woman of the 1930s wanted to dress like Jean Harlow when at home in this sumptuous silk and ostrich feather peignoir, there was a slightly more affordable yet equally elegant alternative: the housecoat. Created in slinky and sinuous silks and satins, the housecoat didn't function as a bathrobe, but acted as a halfway house between day and full-on evening wear. Nobody ever left their home wearing a housecoat, but would happily wear one at dinner with hubby or even over a gossipy game of bridge. And for my boys, I offer up the quintessence of indoor elegance, the smoking jacket. Sure, they'd been around since the previous century, but enjoyed a real resurgence of popularity in the 1930s. Oh look, there's Clark Gable speaking as they did to the decade's love of sophisticated elegance and glamour. And if any of you want to bring some of this golden age glamour into your own isolation wardrobe, you actually can. This housecoat you're seeing here comes from an online store called Kiss Me Deadly. I'll leave the link. And this is the housecoat that I own. I bought it for my honeymoon, and now I wear it to make stepkids pack lunches and when I'm yelling at them to do their chores. Not very Myrna Loy. And if you want that full-on Harlow glamour, there's a ridiculously talented lady on Etsy named Nonye, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, who makes and sells these. Oh my goodness, have you ever seen anything more divine? And of course, I'll leave a link to her Etsy store. And for my boys out there, you can find smoking jackets everywhere and at every price point, from a $5,000 Gucci to a $50 eBay version. Oh dear, Hitler's just invaded Poland and the world has gone to war. So join me at home in our 1940s living room, and the at-home trend I've chosen for the war years is the jumpsuit. Fashion is not an island, it's a response, and of course it was named after its similarities to the outfits worn by Air Force parachuters. Although a woman could throw a coat over a jumpsuit and go to the store in it, these really were for at-home wear, for doing chores, pottering around the garden, or maybe a very casual kitchen table lunch with friends. Check this out. The two-way siren suit. Isn't that fantastic? Basically a jumpsuit to which you could attach a hood and pull the hem of the trouser to make it tight on your way to the bomb shelters. Practical and comfortable, yet strong and empowering. Isn't that how we all want to feel right now? My favorite contemporary jumpsuits come by way of Trina Turk. I love them, and I've been wearing my Trina Turk jumpsuits an awful lot while isolating. And for men, at home during World War II was wherever they were barracked or bivouacked. And what could be more classic than a pair of camouflage combats and a khaki tee? What a great isolation look. And for those who think that they didn't have t-shirts in the 1940s, they did. Wait, is that Dean Martin I hear crooning from afar? It is. He's there with his friend Frank Sinatra, so come fly with me into the stylish mid-century of the 1950s and early 60s with my personal favorite at-home fashion look. The hostess gown with pants, cigarette pants or capris, either attached to a maxi-length dress or worn as separates. Now, you occasionally see hostess dresses in far fancier versions that you could wear perhaps to a nightclub, but in the 50s and early 60s, these were actually considered a bit too casual to wear to a restaurant. Their very name, the hostess gown, speaks to their at-home only role in the mid-century wardrobe. These were for entertaining at home, at patio parties or cocktail soirees. And look at this. I got this picture from Pinterest and I don't know to whom it originally belonged. I couldn't find out. So if any of you know, please put them in contact. And just when I thought that my dream of owning a hostess gown with attached pants would never be realized, I discovered that designer Kay Unger has a ton. They're quite expensive when you buy them new, but they go for a song on eBay. And for my boys out there, mix up those Mai Tais, throw on some Martin Denny and have yourself a luau for one in an aloha shirt. Aloha shirts were a mid-century menswear staple, popularized by servicemen returning from the South Pacific after the war, and even worn by the king. Yet, unless you were going to a tiki bar or unless you were a kid, aloha shirts were far too casual and flashy to wear anywhere but around the house or to a patio party, and surely it would cheer anyone up to wear one now. And I talk about the whole history of the aloha shirt in the episode Fashion and the Tiki Craze. I'll leave a link to it in the description in case you'd like to see it. Hang on, do I hear the strains of a sitar? I do. So come join me at home in the swinging 60s with its love of exoticism and throw on a caftan. Now certainly very fancy caftans could be worn outside of the home, but generally the caftan was the garment of choice when relaxing or entertaining at home. Think about those Slim Aarons photos from the late 1960s. The caftan was considered incredibly hip, as not only did it speak to the era's interest in all things exotic, but its loose and comfortable fit resonated with the decade's slow but steady break from former fashion dictates. Now, those of you who watch the UFH regularly will know that I'm a die-hard caftanista, and I've been wearing my own caftans more or less non-stop in isolation. Is that a cheese fondue I'm smelling? It is, so come meet me in the living room of the 1970s. And believe it or not, the caftan was again the at-home fashion choice of the decade for women, but this time it was worked in earthy tones with folksy prints. And for men, brace yourselves boys, we're sticking with, yes, the caftan. It truly was worn by trendier men of the decade, making as it did the point that this me generation fella had the confidence to relax at home free of the constraints of pants. And look at this. How to wear a caftan. If you look at this picture, I think this guy is showing us a little more than just how to wear a caftan. Oh, and look, it even came in his and hers versions, perfect for a decade where unisex became a marketing term. There were even pretty mainstream sewing patterns for male caftans, so it truly was a thing. What do you guys think? Could you be a caftanisto in isolation? Well, I'm not getting much exercise, not that I ever do really, so let's get physical. In the home of the 80s, the decade's obsession with physical fitness saw gym attire crossing over into daywear, and so the at-home trend I've chosen is this one. The sweatpants and sweatshirts of the gym reworked into comfy, pastel-toned daywear. Now, women did wear a lot of this stuff to the store or to the mall, but never to work, yet always at home, and men too donned the crossover of gym and jogging into at-home attire, and that includes the shell suit. Okay, I need to go feed my Tamagotchi, so meet me in the living room of the 1990s, and the trend that I've chosen for my at-home look draws from the decade's anti-fashion minimalist trend, and I have to create this look myself, starting with skin-tight black leggings, a slightly oversized black t-shirt, a pair of Doc Martens, and if it's chilly in the house, throw on a loose-knit oversized sweater, preferably with a couple of holes in it, and put your hair in a messy couldn't-care-less updo secured with a claw clip, and you've got the look. Of course, you could and did go out like this, but when at home, there were an awful lot of us who wanted to dress like Kate Moss. We're in the 2000s, and again, fashion had loosened up so much that there really was no distinction between what one could wear at home and what we wore when we went out. But surely the at-home ensemble of choice was the Juicy Couture velour tracksuit, or any one of its innumerable imitators. And quite rightly, I'm choosing this trend because I think most of us had a version of this. I did, but I only wore it in the house. I never wore it out, unlike Paris Hilton. This really was the start of the athleisure wear trend that would become so enormous in the 2010s. And as we move into the 2010s, my at-home trend of choice comes courtesy of Lululemon, and all of that labels imitators with engineered leggings and tracksuit tops and, of course, yoga pants. Absolutely, we go out in this stuff, perhaps a little bit more covered up, but interestingly, there was a bit of a controversy, wasn't there, as to whether or not we should, or whether this sort of attire should remain in the gym, in the yoga class, or at home. It was a discussion that I was interviewed about, and one of my off-the-cuff remarks made it into Wikipedia on its entry on yoga pants. Anyway, that was quite a few living rooms we isolated in this episode, wasn't it? I'll be back very soon with more on the UFH, but until then, my friends, stay safe, stay sane, stay positive, stay home, and I know you'll do the next one. Stay stylish. Thanks ever so much for watching. Bye for now.